Our next movement is the push. Now, you guys are all familiar with this as push-ups, chest press. I guess that's mostly what that is, but we're doing the same things. It's the same movements as a push-up is, but we're gonna give you guys a couple different versions so that anybody can do them and anybody can make use of them. Again, same thing here. It's gonna be all body weight, but you're gonna see that I'm gonna give you a range of body weight movements with slightly different tweaks on them in order to give you guys options. Now, what we practice primarily with this is we do a wall push-up, okay? You're gonna see me practice it on the chair because it's better for my filming here, but know that what I want you guys doing is I want you doing this on the wall where you're nice and safe and controlled, and you know, obviously make sure it's a nice solid wall, make sure somewhere where you're gonna be comfortable. Don't hit your face. That's important.
Don't hit your face.
So note here.
It's real. I do it almost every time I model it on video. I mean, I don't smash my face, but almost every time careful.
Same idea as with the other movements. Our hands are about shoulder width. In this case, they're a little bit outside my shoulders because that's where my kind of arms and hands naturally come. And again, push, this is push, right? So it's just this movement. Same thing as you'd be doing on a bench press or a push-up, but we're doing it on the wall. And the way that we create some resistance is first get into a nice solid position, and we walk our feet back just to the point where we're comfortable, where we have a nice little bit of an angle, and then we use the wall to lower ourselves down, keeping our core engaged, our back nice and flat. So I've got all of the muscles that a corset would cover, they're all engaged, which is what we're talking about when we're saying core engagement. It's kind of like flexing the tummy, but you want to do it all the way around your torso. And if you've got a nice flat back, you're probably okay. Now notice, I've got my arms nice out and wide, nice out and wide. You can bring them in closer together too and bring your elbows closer to the sides. Either one is fine. They do work to the muscles slightly differently. So it's actually one of those things that there is some advantage to mixing it up. But while you're learning, choose one, choose what feels better to you and stick with that for now.
Okay, so the video didn't show it super well. The difference that I'm talking about here is with these push-ups is the difference between having let's try to move over. The difference between having your hands out, sorry, I can't get it all in the video. The difference between having your hands out like this on the wall, which is a more kind of traditional stance, versus this where elbows are close to your sides. Oops, excuse me. I would argue that this with your elbows closer to your sides is a little bit more functional, and it definitely feels kinetically better, you know, in the sense that going out here can put a lot of strain on the shoulder joints, especially if you're not used to practicing that way. So both are useful, both are important to practice because, you know, you want to be able to have force production from both positions. That said, don't stress too much about it. Do the one that feels better to you. Build strength and ability with that stance, hand positioning over time, and then you can play with changing your the distance that they're at, or you know how you're lowering yourself down. You can always play with that stuff from the beginning. There's not a whole lot of risk. I just like to recommend to people that they choose like one or two versions of all these and just practice them in repetition, because the goal here is not just to do them and to get good at doing the movements, but rather to learn over time kind of the ins and outs of what can contribute to that movement, which is a different thing than learning how to do it right versus wrong. There is a wrong way, which is any way that is damaging to the body. But short of that, all the other ways are right. You know, contextually speaking, or, you know, it's context specific, right? And relative to each individual. Yeah.
Now, to show it better, I'm gonna give you guys the same movement, but it's gonna be with the same chair I was using. Now, it's worth mentioning that the chair is not the most ideal setup to do this, particularly because the chair itself can move, right? This is a nice solid chair, so make sure that likewise, if you're using a chair, that you do choose one that's nice solid, no wheels again, just like we were talking about. And in this particular case, it's not really wide enough for me to get that same wide hand stance. That sounds kind of odd. When I was on the wall, you can spread your hands nice and wide and get a nice wide placement on your hands. When you're doing it on the chair, at least the chair like this, you're gonna have to move in a little bit, keep those elbows closer to the sides.
Do the movement, do the handstands that's right for you and your body.
Closer to the sides of your body as opposed to out like this, just simply because, you can see it's not that wide, right? So, but for the sake of this video and to make the point, I'm going to use the chair again. I'll take you guys through a couple different variations. It's important to note that as we create more of an angle, we're creating more resistance. So if you're up against the wall and you're mostly upright, that's gonna be a great starting point for anybody who's learning. And then as you progress, you can slowly start to first walk your feet out so that you're doing it from farther back. So it might be something like that. And then if you progress to the point where you want to increase the challenge even more, create more of, or bring your body closer to parallel with the ground. So this is going to be more resistance on my chest than the wall, which means it's a little bit harder. So choose that if it feels good to you. Again, make sure that's nice and solid. I'm going to keep my thumbs up over the chair instead of like this, just simply because I would rather have this more natural hand stance or hand positioning than if they were rotated in order to keep my thumbs, like that. So thumbs or hands in a nice neutral position. Okay. Or rather, better yet, sorry, I was leading myself down bad habit. Start close to the chair like I am now. Get that nice solid stance, and then walk your feet out. Okay. Same thing here, about shoulder width. Feet, which is fine too. You're fine going out or in more. It's just find where you're comfortable, okay? Most importantly, we have a nice core engagement, nice kind of flat back. Again, when we talk about a flat back, there is a slight curve in that lumbar. But otherwise, our core is engaged, our shoulder blades are back, our neck is in alignment, and we're not doing wonky things with our neck.
Neutral spine. You notice that throughout all these movements, I'm using core engagement to create a neutral spine. I call it a flat back, but a flat back has a slight curve in the lumbar, which I'm about to explain. So neutral spine. And when we talk about neutral spine, we also mean neutral neck. You'll notice that I'm turning over to look at the camera a lot as I'm filming this. Make sure that when you're doing it, you're keeping your head facing forward. We don't want to tweak the neck or anything else because we're doing wonky things.
I see me look over at the camera, but I want you looking straight, neutral neck. It's actually good. It's what I should be practicing. It's hard to not look at yourself sometimes. That was the best shake I got. Cut that. Okay.
Got it. God, that's making.
So again, this is more challenging than the wall, but less challenging than flat. Now notice, I'm doing the same thing that I was doing with the other movements, okay? I'm not worried about how many reps I'm doing. Rather, I'm worried about doing them slow and controlled and with good technique and in a way that is not stopping to rest for the sake of, notice how I popped that chair up a little bit. Make sure you're pushing down on the chair, not out, like I just was, okay? Then you can make it more challenging if you want, but nice and slow and controlled. That was a little too far, it was a little too high. You saw it looked a little wonky. Make sure you can support yourself, obviously, the way that I just, stepped out a little too far back. Step back in if you need to, right? And then again, lowering yourself down. Pushing down on the chair, not pushing out, so as to help with the stability, okay? Notice too that sometimes I'm doing it with my Toes or my heels up. Sometimes I'm doing it with my heels down. Both are okay. Do what works for you. If you want more of a challenge, move flatter to the ground. See, am I blocking the mirror? Yeah, I am. It's all right, whatever. Okay. Same thing here. Notice. Put my hands down first, and that got nice and stable. Then I walked my feet out.
Safety.
Make sure you engage your core, get that nice flat back, and then same thing here.
The tendency here may be to kind of dip your body down as you're going low or arch it up as you're going up. Try to limit that, especially as you're learning. I mean, try to limit that as you're learning. And if you're more advanced, you should probably have eliminated that for the most part. But also don't beat yourself up. It's super normal and requires some time to build the strength and the physiological adaptations to be able to keep your body flat throughout, a set or whatever. Yeah, don't be too hard on yourself, but also, as always, be very safe.
All the way down and all the way back up, or at least to what is comfortable for you. If you can only go here to here, that's great. Over time, you can learn to go down further.
That's a genuine statement too. That's not a placation. That's not me saying, oh, it's okay. Like, if you can only do a short range of motion, yeah, obviously, like, it'd be great if we could get you a fuller range of motion, or like it'd be great for you to feel that. But there's nothing wrong with having a short range of motion. In fact, the only way to go from having a short range of motion to a longer range of motion, or a shorter range of motion to a greater range of motion, is by challenging your existing range of motion where you're at and where it's at. So, ironically, coincidentally, this is the only journey that anybody has when they start talking about building strength and robustness. Some people will hit it really hard and injure themselves or feel miserable about it. And that's what we're trying to avoid. We want it to feel good. We want it to feel healthy, and we want it to feel effective.
Make sure you engage your core, get that nice flat back, and then same thing here. All the way down and all the way back up, or at least to what is comfortable for you. If you can only go here to here, that's great. Over time, you can learn to go down further and get that full range of motion. Okay, so you'll notice on that last one, I shifted my positioning a little bit. I kind of shifted forward a little bit. All that's fine. Find where you're comfortable and what feels good to you. Generally speaking, if it feels good to your body, you're in good shape. If you ever feel a tweak or something feels like it's, kind of hurting in the shoulder joint or the wrist or the elbow or anywhere, make sure that you're stopping and you're resting, and you're not going to that you don't continue to do the movement if you're feeling bad in any way about it or from it. So, with time and repetition and learning, you will learn how to keep your core engaged in a way that makes all these movements safe, effective, and functional. But expect that when you're learning that you're going to do some wonky stuff. You're going to be, you might have an arch, you might be arched in. The important thing is that we're building towards stability and strength and good form. So if you find yourself doing any kind of wonky stuff, that's more of a deadlift. But if you find yourself doing something wonky be careful, this will hurt your back, right? So that looks like something else. But again, the idea here is that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is nice flat body, nice controlled core, and then lowering ourselves down and back up. And then we're doing this until we're tired, but not till we're miserable. Whenever we get that voice in our head that says, I don't really feel like doing this anymore, we stop doing it, okay? Make sure you stick to that.
All right, so you guys have seen we have various various angles that we're at. When we are at a greater angle and we're more straight up like I was on the wall, you're going to have relatively less resistance on your chest and your body generally than will be the case when you create more of an angle. And that's just because as we get flatter, that puts more of our body weight onto our chest. And so it increases that resistance. So if you are intimidated by a flat push-up, start on some wall push-ups. Just like with the other motions and with other movements, once you establish good form and control at a lower degree of resistance, in this case at a higher angle, you can progressively lower it down over time, in the same way that you would increase the weights progressively if you were lifting weights. Again, very gentle and very much with the focus of good form, good intent, good technique.
Okay, now just for the sake of showing you guys the full Monty, I will do a couple flat push-ups. It's not important, or rather, the important part of me showing you guys the flat push-ups is that you guys see it's the exact same motion. Now, the directional load is slightly different. For example, so it's going to work your muscles slightly differently if you're pushing up this way versus pushing this way. But as we're learning, it doesn't really matter, because if you can figure out as you're learning how to do one of them with good form, you're going to be able to figure out how to do the other ones with good form, because they're the same exact thing, just slightly different angles.
Drink your water.
And to show that, I'll do some push-ups.
That's to you guys. Drink your water.
Okay, always notice, same thing here. Lower yourself down gently and controlled. You notice I didn't drop to the ground. Be safe. Same thing, I walked myself out. You see that? Actually, we're gonna walk myself out a little bit more. Oh, okay, I'm gonna show you two different versions, okay? So one is gonna be from my knees. That's gonna be a little less difficult, and then I'm gonna go completely flat. Despite what angle I'm at and how much resistance is on my chest, it's all the same thing, basically. Now you'll see from the knees, same thing here. We engage that core, back nice and flat, and lower ourselves down, okay? Now, if you wanna do it from the feet, I would suggest starting from the low point. It's a little easier. Actually, it really just depends on what you're comfortable with. Okay, same exact thing as the wall, as on the chair, at the different angles, and from my knees. The only difference is from my knees, you're not engaging anything below the knee. And then, you know, as you pop up on your toes, you're engaging all the muscles below the knee, including the ankles and feet and all that stuff. So, it's not that one isn't superior, or sorry, that one isn't more effective than the other. The flat push-up, especially any of the push-ups where our body's engaged, you know, head to toe, is generally going to be a more effective exercise.
I didn't say that quite right. The most effective exercise is the one that fits you and it works for you.
Despite what angle I'm at and how much resistance is on my chest, it's all the same thing, basically. Now you'll see from the knees, same thing here. We engage that core, back nice and flat, and lower ourselves down, okay? Now, if you wanna do it from the feet, I would suggest starting from the low point. It's a little easier. Actually, it really just depends on what you're comfortable with, right? But notice it's the same exact thing that I'm doing, whether it's on the wall, whether it's on the chair. In fact, just gonna do it. Okay, the same exact thing as the wall, as on the chair, at the different angles, and from my knees. The only difference is from my knees, you're not engaging anything below the knee. And then, you know, as you pop up on your toes, you're engaging all the muscles below the knee, including the ankles and feet and all that stuff. So, it's not that one isn't superior, or sorry, that one isn't more effective than the other. The flat push-up, especially any of the push-ups where our body's engaged, head to toe, is generally going to be a more effective exercise. But if we're learning and you need to learn how to do it and you can't do it from your feet already, that makes the one from the knee is better for you.
The point here is that from a progressive learning standpoint, the one that is most effective is the one that allows you to perform most effectively. If you're struggling to do them flat and from the feet, go down to the knees. And if you want to make it a little bit more challenging, go up on the feet.
And then, if you want to practice doing it from the feet eventually, that's a natural next, build your strength from the knees, and then over time and with repetition, your body will create the physiological adaptations that allow you to do the one from the feet or do the more advanced one, regardless, or whatever groups of exercises you're doing, because they all, regardless of which ones we're talking about, they all have this range of application and range of how hard or how easy you can make it. I think that covers pushes, so we'll take another break.